Ohr Somayach is a time when, rightfully so, we discuss the Kiruv efforts of individuals and institutions around the world. I think there's an added understanding here that if we look at the Haftorah that we're going to read, Dirshu Hashem B'Matzo, the Haftorah of the Tainis Tzibur, every word there describes what is happening today in the Jewish world, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. In the United States, the assimilation, the intermarriage, is something that is advancing at a galloping rate. And in Eretz Yisrael today, and that's what I want to focus on, in Eretz Yisrael today, you have millions of Jews who don't know who Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are, who don't know the meaning of Shema Yisrael. And the question is, what are we doing? What can we do? What should we do? And what is happening? In 1944, the Panovich Harav called a meeting in Tel Aviv where he discussed the challenge to Jewish education and the tens of thousands of people coming to Israel who were denied a chinuch. And he read the following letter, which applies to every single one of us. And the letter was written by a Jew who had lived in Kovna during the war, during the Kovna ghetto. And this man described what's called a children's action, where the Nazis came around and rounded up the kids. And the man describes how in front of his eyes a flatbed open truck came, and at every home the Nazis and their Lithuanian helpers went inside, took all the kids and threw them on the truck and left the parents in pain, in panic. And he watched the scene. In one place, there were 3 kids. They threw the 3 kids on the truck, and the mother's standing outside, and she's screaming, "How could you do this? How could you?" And the kids are screaming. And the Nazi, in another example of cruelty, said, "Okay, you know what, Mrs., you can go on the truck and you can take down 1 child. 1 out of the 3. And the mother gets on the truck, and the 3 kids, 8, 10, and 12, this is from the letter that the Panovich Harav read. And the 3 kids, 8, 10, and 12, are screaming, "Ma, save me." And each one wraps themselves around her legs, "Ma, save me." And she's going to save the 8-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old. What's a mother to do? How can she choose? And this went on for long minutes until finally the Nazi said, no. Takes the mother, threw her off the truck, and she didn't save anybody. And the Panovich Harav said, that's us. Are we saving the 8-year-old? Are we saving the 10-year-old? Are we saving the 12-year-old? Which one of the kids are we saving? Or aren't we saving any? And this question has not diminished in the last 80 years since that speech. In all the years of the state. But there's something going on beneath the surface. You read in the news media about demonstrations, about blocking highways, and whatever's been going on here for the last 6 months. And you think that this is the reality for these people. And I got news for you, it's not. Tuesday night, I paid a visit, not my first, to a certain very respected university. I'm not telling you the name, and you'll hear in a minute why. Not in Jerusalem. Probably the number one university in Israel. And I met some people there. And a fellow comes over to me with 3 earrings on one side, piercings in his nose, you name it. And there was a room full of these people. And he says to me, no yarmulke, not a single yarmulke in the place. Boys and girls, men and women, the left of the left of the left. To the point that I stopped off at this university after leaving a wedding, and the one who took me in said, no, the other 2 guys got to stay in the car because we're doing this for 20 years, and if we have a delegation coming in, they will shut us down in a second. This is going on for 20 years, and the fellow comes over to me, piercings, earrings in every place. You name it, the usual stuff. And everybody in the room looked like him. And not a one with a yarmulke, not one. Not one. And he says, I put on tefillin every day. I'm keeping Shabbos already for 6 months. And I said to him, maybe you want to give me a bracha? And he looks at me and he says, I should give you a bracha? I said, yeah. I grew up with Shomer Shabbos parents. Those are no big deal. But you, look at you. Look how hard it is. And this is going on. How do we have this place? Because some students convinced the college that this is a branch of the synagogue in Hebrew University. There's only one problem with the story, that Hebrew University doesn't have a synagogue. But that, we didn't tell them. And, okay, but you guys have to come in the front entrance, of course, to monitor that there should be no religious activity in the campus. Yeah, we will, front entrance, not once. And now it's quiet. And this is going on for 20 years. And you can go there any Tuesday night, go in your jeans, and you will see 60 men and women who are on their way to first degree, second degrees, doctorates, learning Hilchas Boirer, learning Hilchas Muktzah, ready to take a bechina on it. And many of them without yarmulkes. And the one who teaches them is a student of that university from 20 years ago who looked exactly like them. And today, if you would look at him and you would stand him next to me, you would tell anybody that I'm the Reform Jew. And he is one of them. He's one of them. And this is going on throughout the college campuses in Eretz Yisrael, but it is so under the radar But the point is, you learn with someone, you changed his life. And this guy, he doesn't know it. I didn't tell him, my dear friend, in 6 months you're going to be wearing a yarmulke, and 6 months after that, when you get married, your wife is going to do what a good Jewish girl is supposed to do. I didn't tell him that, but we've had so many thousands and tens of thousands of people in Eretz Yisrael who go from learning a line of Gemara, a pasuk in Chumash, and they go from there to Shmira Shabbos, to Tefillin, to raising their children as observant Jews. Where does this come from? It's because if you give a kid a chance to learn, the Torah will light up his neshama. Pasuk says, and we're going to go through this a little bit more extensively, Ki kasher yered hageshem v'hasheleg min hashomayim. When, just like when rain and snow comes down from heaven, v'shama lo yashuv, ki im hirvos haaretz, the rain doesn't go back up, but rather does its job of nourishing the land. Ken yiyed dvari asher yetze mipi. So shall be my word, Hashem says. Lo yashuv elai reikam. It doesn't come back empty. Ki im asos asher chafatzti. It does what I want it to do. And you ask me, what does a Gemara in Bava Kama, what does a Mishnah in Hamafkid have to do with bringing a Jew back to God? And God said, leave that to me. It is Dvarai. That's the way I work. Kiyim asos asher chafatzti. And as the Ramban says, Kiyim, it works. It's not 99%, it's 100%. And you just got to learn with them. And the Shmir Shabbos comes, you don't tell them about Shmir Shabbos. You invite them. Shmir Shabbos will come. The Tefillin will come. And everything else comes. And if you are Makarev one, you don't have to be a Kiruv professional. You don't have to do all of that. One person. You send one child to yeshiva, and you change an entire family. I'm going to tell you a story. Very few know. What's his neighborhood called? Mal Tafna. There's a gentleman in Mal Tafna, up the block. His name is Isaac Stolman. Nice Jewish boy. He had a great-grandfather named Isaac Stolman, was a rabbi in Detroit. Okay? About 50 years ago, maybe a little longer, there was an American who came to Israel and he visited the Stipler Goin, that's Reb Chaim Kanievsky's father. Asked him what he asked him, he discussed whatever he discussed. And it turned out that this gentleman was from Detroit. Somehow it came out in the conversation. And the Stipler says to him, "You're from Detroit?" "Yeah." "There's a Rabbi Stolman there?" He says, "Yeah." "Could you send him regards for me?" "Okay. Why not?" I mean, the man did not have the nerve to ask why the Stipler was sending regards, but he did. Goes to Rabbi Stolman, gets back to Detroit, maybe in the 50s or the 60s, and he says, "I have regards to you from Rabbi Kanievsky." He says, "Okay, thank you very much," and he smiles. And the guy can't hold himself back, and he says, "Rabbi," he says, "can you tell me what this is all about?" He says, "Yeah, I'll tell you." He said, "I was a student in Nevardik Yeshiva. And as Nevardik Yeshiva had this was their modus operandi, they would send boys around to the various villages to bring back kids for yeshiva. And he says, and a friend of mine and me, we were assigned to go to Hornsteipel. And there was this nice kid there by the name of Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky, a religious home, but he would have stayed a farm boy. And we brought him to yeshiva. I was one of them. That's the end of the story. Oh, it's not the end of the story at all. It's the beginning of the story. One kid. One child who went to yeshiva. One! How many Talmidim did the Stipel have? How many tens of hundreds of thousands of yeshiva bachrim learned from his Sfarim? And you know, he also had a son called Reb Chaim. Many of you attended his funeral. How many hundreds of thousands of Jews were helped by his eitzah, by his brachas, by his Sfarim? These two people changed the world. From what? From a 16-year-old boy getting an 11, 12-year-old kid into yeshiva. And their influence, I'm not even talking about him and his wife, and it's endless. So, although the Panovich Rav spoke about the one kid, it's not the one kid. It's the tens and the hundreds of thousands who are helped, whose lives have changed because of one child. There was a story that happened a bunch of years ago. Man grew up in Meir. You heard of that place, down the road. Okay. And he got turned off. He was what we call OTD, off the derech. Not for a day, for 60 years. To the point that when his son got married, he told him, listen here, I'll buy you a house, but there's only one condition, no mezuzah. Imagine that? Pretty forceful in his views, you would think. Okay? Fellow gets married, you want a house, not an apartment. Not one of these little, things in French Hill. A house. Gets married. Married a girl from a traditional background. No mezuzah on the door. You get it? In Israel. The town of Hadera. And someone passed away, his father-in-law, his mother-in-law, his wife was sitting Shiva. She was feeling a little whatever. And she saw a pamphlet about, maybe give your son a little Jewish education. And the two of them had a big fight, and he didn't want to make his wife mad, so he let her go to the Kiruv school. Okay. Goes to kindergarten. He's in first grade, second grade, he starts to read. Father doesn't like it, but okay. One day, this was the days before smartphones, 20 or so years ago, or before they were so ubiquitous, and the parents were sitting there watching television with the rest of the family on Friday night. I mean, that's what you do, right? And this house has nothing, not even a mezuzah. And their little boy, their 6-year-old boy is 7-year-old, nowhere to be found. And the father gets up and he goes into the kitchen looking for his kid. And there the boy is standing on a chair. And there's a plastic cup full of water on the counter. And next to the plastic cup is the siddur that he got in school. And he's saying, Chulu Hashomayim v'ha'aretz. He's reading. Because in school, his teacher taught him that on Friday night you make Kiddush. And his father wouldn't hear of it. So he decided to do the best he can. With a plastic cup of water, he's making Kiddush. And his father, who still had a little something in him, said, you know, it's a true story, every word. Maybe we should turn off the television. Maybe. A few years later, every Friday night, this boy, his father in one hand, a few years later, this boy, every Friday night, his father in one hand, and his grandfather holding the other hand, with a kippah. The one who for 60 years was running. They go to shul on Friday night. From one flyer that a woman saw about a school. And the rest of the family, no need to talk about it. So every single one of us, we think to ourselves, I'm not a Kiruv professional. I'm not as knowledgeable. If somebody's going to ask me a question, I'm not like Rabbi Breitowitz that I know the answer. I don't know the answer. You don't have to know the answer. You don't have to know anything. You have to want. And take a chavrusa on the phone. A chavrusa on the phone. Nothing. Nothing. And you change a life. There's a boy from Zichron Yaakov. This story happened a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 months ago, called Nadav Portal. Soccer player, big soccer player. And he started to come to a weekly shiur. And as time went on, he got closer, and he decided he wants to go to learn in yeshiva, which is happening throughout Israel, but the less that is said about it, the better chance we have. Those who you remember, the beginning of the Tshuva movement, I'm talking in the end of the 70s, when Uri Zohar, Zechel Avracha, became from, him and a whole bunch of friends, many of whom went through Ohr Somayach, there was a huge media blitz about it. And the pushback from the secular world was so powerful that it effectively shut down the Israeli Kiruv movement for a few years. And the Gedolei Yisrael at the time warned them not to go public, but they felt that the publicity would be better. And usually when you know things better, it doesn't work like that. It took a while, but now there's no talk about this stuff. In those days, every day there was another article about how the iconic movie star did this, and the basketball player did that, and the producer did the third thing. It was every day in Yediot and Mariv, and this basically the pushback was so powerful. This is all, so this you don't read about it. There's a reason for this. Anyway, this Nadav Portal, who was from a secular home, decides that he wants to go to yeshiva. It wouldn't happen overnight. This was after months of going to thing. And he goes to a Kiruv yeshiva. Then one day he decides, but his mother didn't want him to go. His mother said, no, you're not going to yeshiva. I don't want to hear about this religious stuff. I am not letting. So what do? Got to be Meir of the mother. But this is in Zichron Yaakov, where they couldn't find somebody to learn chavruta with the mother. So they assigned her a telephone chavruta. And slowly, after she's learning once a week with this woman on the phone, she tells her son, it's okay. Went on for a couple of months, fine. This kid is, and their chavruta with the mother is continuing. And then not long after he's in this Kiruv yeshiva, this Nadav decides that he wants to go to a real yeshiva, like Meir. Everybody tells him, listen, you're not getting into the Meir. I mean, really, you're a nice guy, but Meir, come on. You just became a Baal Tshuva not long ago. You're not getting into the Meir. And his mother asks her chavruta on the phone, what do you think? She says, I think it's a good idea. I think you should try it. Why do you think it's a good idea? Well, my husband also learns in Meir. She tells her, I'm a wife of a guy who learns in Meir, so maybe you want to try it as well. Okay. So the boy prepares for his bechina, works real hard. He goes to Meir Yeshiva, and he goes for a Blaze Yudel, all ready to go. And Blaze Yudel says, what's your name? Nadav Portal. He says, says, can I give you something to eat, to drink? Things, what you're up to? Just say a word about learning. And he says, okay, you're accepted. He says, just like that? He says, yeah. He says, why? He says, well, my wife has been telling me about you. Your wife? Yeah, my wife. She learns with your mother. The mother's chavruta is Gita Finkel, the wife of the Meir Rosh Yeshiva. And she's been doing this, about 25 years already. She's not a Kiruv professional. She doesn't have all the answers, but she cares. And this Nadav Portal's mother is one of many, many who she and thousands of other people have made from. You don't know who they are because you go on the train and the men look one way and the women look somewhere else, or they don't look like anything, and you don't know that they're busy saying Tehillim when you think they're talking on their smartphones, and they are. For those of you who have a car, you don't know that the stern-looking fellow in test line, right? When you got to go get your once-a-year test. He's a frum guy. You look at him, you would never know the difference. He learns every night. And anybody who looks Haredi gets a pass without him knowing it. Not anymore, because he left. He goes somewhere else, so don't go there. It's not going to help anymore. But this is going on throughout the length and the breadth of Eretz Yisrael. You learn with somebody. You don't have to be a Kiruv professional. Just learn with him and just care. And let's listen to the words of the Navi that we will read by Mincha. Let's hear what he says. Dirshu Hashem b'matzo. So everyone understands this as a time issue. Like the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, search Hashem when he can be found. Kira'u b'yoso karov. But this is not only a time issue, it's a place issue. He's right here. He's waiting for us. Even if you're in Russia, Yazav Russia Darko. V'yashov el Hashem v'irachameu v'el Elokeinu ki yarba uslayach. You don't understand how. How can this work? Hilo machshavosai machshavosechem. Guys, Hashem says, I have it figured out a little better than you do. Ki gavu shamayim me'aretz, and the distance between my understanding and yours is like heaven and earth. But just like ki kasher yered ha-geshem v'asheleg min ha-shamayim, and geshem is, everybody understands that rain is geschmack, it nurtures, it's invigorating. But sheleg, it's cold, get frostbitten. No matter how you get the Torah, right? Ki v'shama lo yashuv ki im hirvo es haaretz. Kiyim, as the Ramban says, it's going to happen. V'holida, v'etzmicha, and it gets into your bones. And you are the plant. You are the Adam Eitz HaSadeh. And you start to grow from the Torah that you learned. You want to know what a Mishnah in a Mafkid is going to do to make you into a Shomer Shabbos? You want to know? Just try it, and you'll know. That's right. And a person will think he's a Natsutz. He's a barren thorn bush. What do I have to give? Yaleb Rosh. V'sachas asirpa, there's the various kinds of vegetation which are abominable at the beginning. But the person changes. He's a different human being. Val Yomar ben Hanechar. And ben Hanechar is both the person who is a non-Jew and wants to join the Jewish people in a genuine way, and there is the estranged Ben. He's also a Ben Hanechar. What's he going to say? Havdel Yavdilani Hashem me'alamo. How could I be one of you? Val Yomar Asaris. I can't have children. I can't do anything productive. How am I ever going to be a productive member of the Jewish people? And Hashem says, nothing doing. Kicho amar Hashem l'tzarishim asher, you start keeping Shabbos. Ubacharu b'asher chafatzti umachzikim bevrisi. And that's all. A friend of mine, a couple months ago, was outside one of these midrashot that are under the radar. Boys, the teens, learning. And a guy goes out there with piercings and all the other stuff, shorts, no yarmulke, mohawk haircut. And my friend asked him, what are you doing in there? He says, we're learning Yadut. He says, really? You? You don't look the part. He says, I don't look the part? Do you know that for 6 months I haven't touched my girlfriend? Do you know that? You know what that means? Do you know that for 2 months I'm putting on tefillin already? Every day? You don't know. Hashem knows. This is what he told them, my friend. So I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. I apologize. You don't know. And a person thinks he's a saris. But if he's Shomer Shabbos, u'bacharu b'asher chofatzti, u'machzikim bevrisi, then v'nosati lehem bebeisi b'chomesai, you'll have kids, but this will be more. Shame olam. You change one kid, and you change the world. Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman once told me, he made a cheshbon of all the Rosh Yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael, and he says most of them are Kiruv kids. Mitchaskim. They came from homes. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises us, U'bnei HaNechar, whether it's the estranged children or its children, those sparks of Judaism, of the Jewish people which are lo yaleinu elsewhere, who are now coming back through authentic conversion. Hanilvim al Hashem l'shorsai. They want to serve God. They love Him. They want to be liyos la'ala avodim, and what's called shomer Shabbos bechalalo. You start Shabbos. I don't like to say it, but a guy who was starting to become frum and he starts to keep Shabbos, he's done. He's done. The Shabbos does it. Yeah. The learning and the Shabbos. The Navavi Osim el Har Kodshi. God will bring him to the Temple Mount. or to the yeshivas today, which are the Temple Mount, and they'll be the best ones there. And there are boys in this best yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael. We've pointed out to the Rosh Yeshiva. See this guy? He says, yeah, the best Bach in yeshiva. Do you know that he grew up not from? He says, not possible. He says, well, it is. It's true. And olosayim v'zivcheim l'ratz al mizbechi. Whatever they do, whatever they offer to God. And this is Ne'um Hashem Elokim. You end off the Haftarah, and I'm sure there's not one of you who looked inside who was wondering what the last pasuk has to do with all of this. And it is really the summation of the entire Haftarah of Dirshu. Hashem is Mekabetz Nitchei Yisrael. He's bringing together the dispersed Jews, whether they were dispersed geographically, spiritually, genealogically. He's bringing them back. Oid akabetz alav l'nikbatzav, and to those that he brought back, he's bringing back more. And this is our moment in history, and we better do our part. It's up to us, and every single one of us can take part of this. That's our job.